Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is the undisputed super middleweight champion. He's currently a champion at 5 different weight classes. It's kind of all over the place. 42-0-0.
No big deal.
You never fought anybody. Well, who would you like? Well, Canelo Álvarez. Well, he's like 15 pounds heavier than me. Well, why don't you fight him? Sure, I'll do that. And then what will I do? Put on a master class in the fight of the century. The fighter of the century. Out of Omaha, Nebraska. Ladies and gentlemen, Terence "Bud" Crawford. Yeah. How's it going, man?
Going great.
Hey.
Just relax.
We appreciate you representing America out there, brother, in the fight of the century and getting a big-time win. How does it feel here? A couple of days removed, I don't know how many hours, maybe 36 hours removed from that fight. Did it feel special when you were in?
Omaha to the world stage, Bud Crawford's win brought the city out in full force this morning. Neighbors say they're proud to celebrate one of their own, making history again. From signs to cheers, the crowd made it clear. This win was more than just about boxing. For many, it felt like Omaha's moment to shine.
It's history. This worldwide, baby, we on the map. Congrats to him. I'm excited.
Antiana Moore, born and raised in Omaha, moved back and says the timing couldn't be better.
So it's refreshing. It's exciting. It's a historical time. I'm ready to party and celebrate him.
For Crawford, becoming a 3-time undisputed champion is about more than just victory. It's about representing his city.
I'm from Omaha, so I'm going to rep my city just like everybody around the world rep their city. So, I love that Omaha is supporting me.
He added Omaha will always be home, and he hopes his success continues to inspire young people across the metro.
They see me and they look at hope. They say, oh, that's hope. If he can do it, I can do it. And that's my main thing.
For many Omaha natives, this win is about more than just boxing. It's about pride, community, and a champion who never forgets his roots.
I love that Omaha is supporting me, and I, love them, and we support each other.
He just like family. Like, he's just like one of us. He don't act no different or nothing like that. So I love it.
I'm told by fans that as this celebration winds down, the victory will not only be remembered for the title, but for bringing together Omaha.
Stepping out, seatbelt. Open the door. Open the door. I'm not reaching for no gun.
I heard people in boxing who were of color speak of the likes of Spence and Crawford saying they should take lessons from Floyd Mayweather and start selling their brand in a more outgoing fashion. Generally, media and society will have preconceived notions when it comes to black fighters, but to put it on media alone, it might just be a more general and safer way of addressing an actually pertinent issue. I know people tend to react thin-skinned at the notion of a public figure addressing a race-related issue, especially in these sensitive times. But to turn a blind eye bringing up outliers like Conor and Fury screaming race card is beyond ignorant. Isn't it true that black people, especially black Americans, tend to be more outgoing and extroverted in nature? So if one were to generalize, it might have not be right, but would it be really that irrational if one was honest with oneself? That dismissive reactionary response seems to be what hinders a fruitful dialogue. It only nurtures that hush-hush agenda that seemingly has everyone so tiptoeing and plain scared to breathe too loudly. When it comes to Bud, he might want to act a certain way if he wants that money, which wouldn't be only about media, but about general society. We want to witness the demise more than we want to see the rise. We don't want to see humble people do humble things. We want to see celeb sex tapes and stacks of money flushed down toilet bowls. Media is a part of that, but it takes its direction from the corrupted masses, trying to cater to those vile urges. But who got us here if not ourselves? By Eric Olson, September 29. Omaha, Neb. Omaha police ordered champion boxer Terence "Bud" Crawford out of his vehicle at gunpoint during a traffic stop for reckless driving early Sunday, hours after his hometown held a parade to celebrate his victory over Álvarez 2 weeks ago. A video circulating on social media showed a portion of the traffic stop. Police Chief Todd Schmaderer ordered an internal affairs investigation, a move Mayor John Ewing said he supported. According to a news release, officers working in the downtown area observed a vehicle driving recklessly shortly before 1:30 a.m. While speaking with the driver, an officer observed a gun on the driver's side floorboard. All 4 occupants were ordered out of the vehicle at gunpoint. The driver was later identified as Crawford upon verification of his driver's license. Crawford was ticketed for reckless driving. One passenger, a member of Crawford's security team, was also found to be carrying a legal firearm. Police confirmed all occupants of the vehicle are legally permitted to carry firearms. A police supervisor and lieutenant responded to the scene at Crawford's request. Crawford's spokeswoman said Sunday night that he had no comment. Ewing said in a Facebook post that he spoke to Crawford after he learned of the traffic stop. I acknowledge the seriousness of what occurred and how trust between law enforcement and our community is important and shows the need to be continuously vigilant about building relationships, Ewing said. Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmaderer has pledged an internal investigation, which I support and want to be full and thorough. We will gather all the facts and be transparent with the public about our findings. Crawford became the unified super middleweight champion with his unanimous decision victory over Álvarez in Las Vegas. He became the first male boxer to capture 3 unified division titles. Crawford is 42-0 with 31 knockouts. The city held a parade through downtown in Crawford's honor during the day, and a party to celebrate his 38th birthday was held at a live music venue near where the traffic stop occurred. Understand that my heart dropped in learning of this end to an otherwise wonderful day and evening celebrating our city's world boxing champion, Ewing said. Omaha needs to remember this important day as a good one while we seek answers to how it ended. Meanwhile, we must ensure that every resident, no matter who they are, feels safe and respected in Omaha. Elizabeth Merrill, Sep 28, 2025, 6:03 p.m. at Omaha, Neb. Omaha native Terence "Bud" Crawford, the newly crowned super middleweight boxing champion, received a traffic ticket for reckless driving early Sunday morning, just hours after thousands of people attended a downtown parade held in his honor. Omaha Mayor John Ewing and Police Chief Todd Schmaderer said in a statement Sunday that they had ordered a review of the traffic stop and that Schmaderer has authorized an internal affairs investigation. The statement said officials were aware of video circulating on social media regarding a traffic stop involving Crawford. An Omaha police spokesman told ESPN on Sunday that the video circulating is from a cell phone from someone inside Crawford's vehicle, and that Omaha police have not released video. According to the statement, police stopped a vehicle they said was driving recklessly shortly before 1:30 a.m. While speaking with the driver, the statement said, an officer saw a firearm on the driver's side floorboard. 4 people in the car were ordered out of the vehicle at gunpoint. The driver later was identified as Crawford, who was cited for reckless driving. One passenger, a member of Crawford's security team, also was found to be carrying a legal firearm. Police said all occupants are legally permitted to carry firearms. The statement said a police supervisor and lieutenant responded to the scene at Crawford's request. Crawford, who turned 38 on Sunday, could not be reached. Nebraskans have been celebrating Crawford for the past 2 weeks following his unanimous decision victory over Álvarez. With the win, Crawford 42-0, 31 Koss became the first male boxer in the 4-belt era to be undisputed champ in 3 weight classes. Last Saturday, He led the Nebraska football team onto the field in its tunnel walk, wearing a 168 jersey representing his undisputed crown in the 168-pound weight class. By Damon Martin Sep 28, 2025, Bud Crawford was celebrated during a victory parade in his hometown of Omaha, Neb on Saturday, but hours later, he found himself being ordered out of his car at gunpoint during a traffic stop. Video surfaced on social media that showed police speaking to Crawford with a gun drawn as the boxer, who is just days removed from his win over Álvarez. Crawford cooperates while stating, "I ain't reaching for no gun," while keeping his hands held high. The police officer is then seen patting Crawford down before the video comes to an end. Police later issued a statement saying that just before 1:30 a.m. local time, officers stopped a vehicle that was driving recklessly. During the traffic stop, the police officer observed a firearm on the driver's side floorboard, and for safety, all 4 occupants were ordered out of the vehicle at gunpoint. The driver of the vehicle was identified as Crawford and issued a citation for reckless driving. All 4 occupants in the car were legally permitted to carry firearms, including a member of Crawford's security team who was carrying his own weapon at the time of the traffic stop. A police supervisor and lieutenant also responded to the scene at Crawford's request. As a result of the traffic stop, Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmaderer ordered an internal affairs investigation over the incident. In the aftermath of the video going viral, Omaha Mayor John Ewing also issued a statement of his own where he revealed that he actually spoke to Crawford about the incident, which followed the celebration in his honor on Saturday. I learned Omaha police pulled over Terence Bud Crawford on a traffic stop downtown early this morning. After learning of this, I spoke personally to Bud Crawford, Ewing wrote. I acknowledge the seriousness of what occurred and how trust between law enforcement and our community is important and shows the need to be continuously vigilant about building relationships. Omaha Police Chief Todd Schmaderer has pledged an internal investigation, which I support and want to be full and thorough. We will gather all the facts and be transparent with the public about our findings. Understand that my heart dropped in learning of this end to an otherwise wonderful day and evening celebrating our city's world boxing champion. We held a great parade and great event at Heartland of America Park. The evening birthday party at Steelhouse, which I and members of my team attended, was a showing of joy and pride. Omaha needs to remember this important day as a good one while we seek answers to how it ended. Meanwhile, we must ensure that every resident, no matter who they are, feels safe and respected in Omaha. Crawford's celebration followed his historic win over Álvarez, where he became the first ever undisputed 3-division boxing champion with a dominant performance to remain undefeated in his career. He has not directly addressed the traffic stop or the resulting investigation underway. Alexander Behunit, Terence Crawford didn't have a great night. That's because just hours after being honored with a victory parade in Omaha for his historic win over Canelo Álvarez, the undisputed and pound-for-pound boxing champion found himself in a tense encounter with police, being pulled over in a traffic stop and ordered out of his vehicle at gunpoint. A video surfaced online showing Crawford slowly unbuckling.
Thank you for allowing.
With just a slight skip of the heart, we have, I think, got through to Chicago. And Muhammad Ali, are you hearing us from London, Muhammad?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for allowing me to come to you live by early bird satellite.
Now, let me just get a few facts straight with you. You're a professional fighter, right?
I am a minister of the religion of Islam, also.
A professional fighter and a minister as well?
Yes, sir.
David Susskind would like to ask you some questions. David?
Well, I don't know where to begin. I find nothing amusing or interesting or tolerable about this man. He's a disgrace to his country, his race, and what he laughingly describes as his profession. He is a convicted felon in the United States. He has been found guilty. He is out on bail. He will inevitably go to prison, as well he should. He's a simplistic fool and a pawn.
Muhammad Ali. One of the greatest athletes of all time. As the first three-time heavyweight boxing champion of the world, he thrilled, entertained, and inspired us.
He was given the Medal of Freedom by the President of the United States.
The American people are proud to call Muhammad Ali one of our own.
What does it mean? The Medal of Freedom. We bring you up, oh yes, this is Muhammad Ali, the great fighter, the great humanitarian, the great Muslim. Years ago, Ali came and sat right here, and Ali looked at me. He said, quote, "Still a nigger." I said, "Oh, Ali, don't talk like that." He said, "Still a nigger." What did my brother mean?
Olympic champion, and the flag is going dun 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 dun. And I'm standing so proud. I just hear the man say it. Champion of the whole world, Cassius Clay.
I think there's a tremendous paradox about racism and boxing that most people don't understand. That boxing was the first major sport, to its everlasting credit, that did allow some degree of equal opportunity. George Dixon became a champion 50 years before Jackie Robinson played for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
George Dixon was born in Nova Scotia, but he mastered his boxing skills in the United States, winning the featherweight championship and becoming the first black fighter to hold an American title. But even as champion, Dixon was constantly reminded of his race.
He was in fights where he would have to box in ring center, because if he boxed around the perimeter of the ring, there were actually fans, ringsiders, who would club his calves and his shins with blackjacks. And as a result, he became a master boxer who could fight in a small circle without using the ring.
In 1892, the Olympic Club of New Orleans staged the famous Carnival of Champions, a three-day fight card in which John L. Sullivan, Jack McAuliffe, and George Dixon defended their titles. In keeping his crown, Dixon bloodied white challenger Jack Skelly over 8 brutal rounds. The local press was unforgiving.
The press's reaction in New Orleans was not so much condemning the fact that a black had fought a white, but condemning the fact that a black had beaten up a white. And as a result, there were no more mixed matches in most of the South for 60 years.
Oh, this is the era of Jim Crow, of rigid segregation, discrimination, exclusion of blacks from all elements of American life and citizenship. Plessy v. Ferguson, which is the decision by the Supreme Court in 1896, establishes separate but equal, which basically says that discrimination against blacks, even at the state level, is okay.
Like most black fighters of his time, Dixon went north in search of mixed matches. He won a string of title defenses until losing his crown in 1900 to a white challenger, Terry McGovern. By then, Dixon's riotous lifestyle had brought about his downfall.
People have to understand the sporting life at this time for blacks, the jockeys, the boxers, the people in vaudeville, they were all hanging out together. This was a pretty rough crowd. You know, they liked to drink, they liked to carouse, they liked the women. He hung out with that crowd too and didn't maintain himself as well as he should have, and that's the reason, as with many others, his career ended.
Much as George Dixon fought his way out of the shadows in the late 19th century, Panama Joe Gans triumphed at the start of the 20th century, holding the lightweight crown for 6 years. Gans had gotten his start in battle royals, racist spectacles held over from slavery, when male slaves were collared and ordered to beat each other, all for the amusement of Southern plantation owners.
You got into the ring with 4 or 5 other kids. Sometimes they were blindfolded, sometimes they weren't. And you all beat the crap out of each other. Whoever survived was given some money, and he was discovered in this way. He learned his craft in this way.
Joe Gans, his first fight was a battle royal. He won $5 for outlasting the other 7 or 8 guys in the ring. And this was done in Baltimore by his first promoter.
Promoters held the key to getting title bouts, and often they took advantage of fighters, especially blacks.
They had a fight in the other guy's hometown. They lost decisions they should have won. Great black fighters like Joe Gans had to take dives in title fights.
After Gans lost a legitimate fight to lightweight champion Frank Earn in 1900, his only chance of getting a rematch was to take a dive against Terry McGovern.
He went down in the second round against Terry McGovern, and all the bettors knew it. Joe Gans went down and out in round 2, and everybody cashed in their tickets.
There was no choice for any black fighter at this time but to go along because whites controlled the game. What else were you going to do? I mean, it wasn't as though there was some alternative you can go to.
It's hard to assess what he would have done without being handcuffed in the ring. But Joe Gans was unbelievable. His defense, his jab. I mean, here is the man that invented it. He was that good.
A black heavyweight finally gets his chance. His name is Jack Johnson. Shadowboxing continues in a moment. Defiant, gifted, reckless, hated, and loved. Jack Johnson was as talked about as any American figure of his time. The son of a former slave, Johnson grew up in Galveston, Texas in the late 19th century when blacks were forbidden even to use the same sidewalks as whites. In his teens, Johnson fought in clubs as far away as Chicago, always in the shadow of white fighters and always for little pay.
Johnson got the idea that the only way to make money in the sport was to move out of the Negro leagues, if you want to look at it that way, to move in to fighting whites at the highest possible level.
But in the early 1900s, blacks were still denied heavyweight title fights. When James J. Jeffries successfully defended his crown against Jim Corbett in 1903, he kept the color line drawn.
I will not fight a Negro. If the public declares that I should fight Johnson, I will surely have to decline.
Jeffries continued to boycott black challengers right up until the day he retired as champion in 1905.
The heavyweight championship, because of the retirement of James J. Jeffries, was really down in terms of appeal.
At the same time, Johnson discovers that there's no longer any money fights in the Negro leagues, and so he sees this as a window of opportunity.
Johnson's biggest break came when the vacated heavyweight title fell into the hands of the lackluster Canadian Tommy Burns.
So Johnson says, now I can get my shot. He follows Burns to England. He doesn't get it. He follows Burns to Australia. Burns has a couple matches and says, what the hell? Why not fight Johnson?
So, for $30,000, Tommy Burns agreed to take on Jack Johnson for the world heavyweight title.
Johnson comes out against Burns, and in the early rounds, it's clear that it's a mismatch. And Johnson starts to taunt Burns, playing with the racial symbolism of the day, saying, come on, hit me in the stomach, Tommy, hit me in the stomach, thinking that blacks couldn't take punches in the stomach and Burns would pound away at his midsection and it wouldn't bother Johnson. And then Johnson slowly began to pick up the fight and inflict more physical damage. By the 12th, 13th round, Burns had pretty much had enough. He had been beaten fairly severely.
Before the police stopped the fight in the 14th round, they ordered the film cameras also stopped. lest there be a record of a black man knocking out a white man. But history had been made, and Jack Johnson now wore the crown that had once belonged to Jeffries, Corbett, and Sullivan. John L. Sullivan himself, guest reporting for the New York Times, was enraged by the outcome.
The Negro can't assume that title. I can't see where Johnson will be given a high position in the opinion of the general American public.
Boxing is known as the manly art or the sweet science, and blacks were not supposed to have the mental capacity to succeed at that kind of activity. Well, Jack Johnson proved them wrong.
But the white press simply couldn't accept the fact that there was a black heavyweight champion, much less an uppity black heavyweight champion. And a writer as great as Jack London became famous for writing the line that Jim Jeffries had to come out of retirement and wipe that smile off Jack Johnson's face.
That said, promoter Tex Rickard summoned the overweight, out-of-shape ex-champion Jim Jeffries from his alfalfa farm. Jeffries' mission? To defeat the man who defied the code of behavior laid down for blacks.
The idea that a black would even want to fight a white American and defeat a white American was preposterous. But then going beyond that, that he would want to date and marry and bed white women. In the South, they were lynching people for the mere wisp of such behavior, the thinking of such behavior.
Oh, Jack Johnson was an incredible symbol of black aspiration, ambition, success, achievement. He symbolized black power, black might, black resolve, and he stood up to whites in white arenas.
He's going through the South in his automobile at some 100 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour. He's going fast, well beyond the speed limits, and he's stopped by a white sheriff. And the white sheriff says to him, "You know, you were speeding." Johnson says, "Yes, I know that." He says, "That'll be $50. Johnson reaches in his pocket, pulls out a wad, peels off a $100 bill, and gives him a $100 bill. Johnson gets back in the car. Sheriff says, "You have change coming." Johnson says, "Keep the change. I'm coming back the same way I went through."
The greatest measure of Johnson's defiance came in Reno, Nevada on July 4th, 1910. For on that day, Johnson met America's great white hope, Jim Jeffries. Vicious anti-black sentiment ran through the mostly white crowd. Some even called for murder. "Let's hope he kills the coon," wrote Arthur Rule of Collier's magazine. To the dismay of Johnson's enemies, the fight was no contest.
There's an interesting sort of street poem that was authored by blacks. It became a part of black folklore and folk culture, which gives you some kind of indication of what Jack Johnson meant to ordinary blacks.
Amazing grace, how sweet it sounds. Jack Johnson knocked Jim Jeffries down. Jim Jeffries jumped up and hit Jack on the chin. And then Jack knocked him down again. Yankees hold the play. The white man pulled the trigger, but it makes no difference what the white man say. The world champion's still a nigger.
The biggest race riot in this country after the Civil War was the rioting that occurred after Jack Johnson beat the Great White Hope. I mean, there were riots in New York, in Washington, Chicago, all across the country.
Unable to beat him in the ring, Johnson's enemies went after him with the letter of the law. His crime? Transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes.
And the Attorney General at the time said, no, that would be a perversion of the Mann Act. We won't use the Mann Act for that, to go after a single individual. And his representative in Chicago says, well, that's all we have. The Attorney General writes back and says, okay, if that's all we have, use it. Was he guilty? Of course he was guilty. He was a boxer who traveled around America. He traveled with women who weren't his wife. He traveled with prostitutes. Was he making money from them? Absolutely not. But on a very technical sense, he's guilty of a violation, as probably millions of other Americans were. The government didn't go after them. They went after Jack Johnson. and they got him.
Tried and convicted, Johnson fled the country and fought abroad for 2 years. Then, in 1915, in need of money, he arranged to fight Jess Willard in Havana, Cuba. It was rumored that Johnson had offered the U.S. government a deal. For $30,000 and safe return to America, he would lose. The deal fell through, and an aging Johnson battled Willard under a blazing sun, finally going down in the 26th round. In the words of a New York Times article, Willard has restored pugilistic supremacy to the white race.
Jack Johnson had an incredible legacy. When he lost the championship in 1915, another black would not fight for the title for 22 years.
Johnson drew the reverse color line and fought mainly white fighters because that's where the money was. Two black fighters fighting each other weren't going to generate the kind of dollars that Jack could get by fighting white opponents.
That Jack Johnson wanted easy matches and easy money meant that the most deserving black challenger of the day, Sam Langford, would be forced to box in the shadows with little hope for a title shot.
Sam Langford was possibly, just possibly, the greatest fighter who ever lived. Here was a man who weighed anywhere from 145 to 160 pounds, and within a short time, very few heavyweights would risk their undefeated record or risk the title against him.
Chasing white fighters to get a match, Langford sometimes had to submit to a fix, even in a non-title bout. Such was the case in 1910 when he faced middleweight champion Stanley Ketchel.
Langford was told not to hurt Stanley Ketchel, and Ketchel, midway through the fight, decided to try and knock out Sam Langford. Langford, in the course of defending himself, just brutalized Stanley Ketchel, but held back from knocking him out.
The fight was ruled a no decision, and despite Langford's cooperation, he never got a chance to fight for Ketchel's crown. Instead, Langford fought other black boxers over and over. 10 times each against Sam McVeigh and Joe Jeanette. 18 times he fought Harry Wills, who had become a contender in 1915, the year Jack Johnson surrendered the heavyweight crown to Jess Willard.
Willard combined two death blows for a champion. Number one, he had no personality. He was a boring fighter, and outside the ring, he was a boring person. Number two, he was cheap, and he didn't like people that much. And so, as a champion goes, this guy had no charisma. He was almost, he dealt in negative charisma.
On the morning of July 4th, 1910, 15 special trains pulled into the little desert town of Reno, Nevada. Aboard were thousands of white men who had paid their way across the country to see a prize fight unlike any that had ever taken place before. They had come to see their hero, the white ex-heavyweight champion Jim Jeffries, take back the title from the first African-American ever to hold it, Jack Johnson. It was, said the Chicago Tribune, going to be a contest between the white man's hope and the black peril. Somehow, in the minds of many white Americans, this boxing match would decide whose country America really was. Who was meant to be in charge. For more than 13 years, Jack Johnson was the most famous and the most notorious African American on earth. He battled his way from obscurity to the top of the heavyweight ranks, won the greatest prize in American sports, a prize that had always been the private preserve of white combatants, then suffered persecution at the hands of his own government, and years of exile before the title was taken from him. And he did all these things during the years which marked the low point of African American life after emancipation. Abandoned by the federal government, denied the vote if they lived below the Mason-Dixon line, and living under the constant threat of mob violence, Black Americans at the turn of the 20th century were no longer enslaved, but not yet truly free. Jack Johnson insisted on being free. When whites ran everything, Jack Johnson took orders from no one. While most African Americans struggled merely to survive, Jack Johnson reveled in his riches and his fame. When Black Americans were expected to defer to whites, Jack Johnson battered them to the ground. And at a time when the mere suspicion that a black man had flirted with a white woman could cost him his life, Jack Johnson slept with whomever he pleased. To most whites, and to some African Americans, Johnson was a perpetual threat, profligate, arrogant, amoral, a dark menace, and a danger to the natural order of things. The real Jack Johnson was both more and less than those who loved or those who hated him ever knew. Just remember, he told a young reporter not long before he died, whatever you write about me, that I was a man.
You think Muhammad Ali was boxing's first rebel? Meet Jack Johnson, the original disruptor who broke every rule. 6th champion of ease riots, offensive giving fast, and had made Johnson.
His lawyers prepared
for every champion who came after. Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, every fighter who dared to be more than just an athlete.
Before the Foley fight, Ali had received word that he had been drafted and would have to report for induction the following month. While his lawyers prepared to challenge the draft order, Ali met privately with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Louisville. King was in town to protest the city's segregated housing. Though the two men differed about black separatism, they found common ground in their views on the war in Vietnam.
What did you discuss back in the hotel room?
Nothing, just friends, just like Khrushchev and Kennedy and everybody. When the people, all of the politicians of all other white races come together, and they, although they believe different, they think different, whites can come together and discuss the common cause. But whenever a few of us come together, the world is shook up. And I say, whatever went back there, it's our business.
Reverend King, do you agree?
Oh, yes, yes. We had a very good discussion on many matters. And, of course, these are not things that we would discuss here, but we do have common problems and common concerns. And above all, as Muhammad Ali has just said, we are all victims of the same system of oppression. And even though we may have different religious beliefs, this does not at all bring about a difference in terms of our concern.
Still brothers.
Do you share the same, one more question, do you share the same concern that Muhammad has for his draft status?
Oh, I certainly do. My views on the draft are very clear. I'm against it. And I think the sooner our country does away with the draft, the better it will be for everybody.
In April of 1967, hundreds of thousands of anti-war protesters marched in New York City. But most Americans still supported the war, and criticizing U.S. policy on Vietnam remained politically treacherous, especially for African Americans. Meanwhile, Muhammad Ali's lawyers had delayed his induction date by claiming the boxer resided in Houston, where he had trained for his recent fights. Now, a new order required him to report to local draft board number 47 in Houston at 8:30 a.m. on April 28th. Before he left Louisville, Ali gave a press conference explaining his position and his plans.
why should me and other so-called Negroes go 10,000 miles away from home here in America to drop bombs and bullets on other innocent brown people who's never bothered us? And I will say directly, no, I will not go 10,000 miles to help or kill innocent people.
5 days later, Muhammad Ali, flanked by his lawyers, arrived at the old post office building in Houston. Inside, as Ali underwent his physical, he joked with his fellow recruits, demonstrating the Ali shuffle in his underwear. Then, at the induction ceremony, Ali refused to step forward when his name was called. A Navy lieutenant be found
into the United States Armed Forces.
The reaction was swift and severe. Within hours, the chairman of the New York State Athletic Commission denounced his conduct as detrimental to the interests of boxing, stripping him of his license to fight in New York. Almost all states followed suit. Association took away Ali's title